Hey, comic book collectors, do you want to protect what you collect? Do you hate when your comic books slide around in your short box, or you need to turn them sideways just so they don't bend or fall over? Well, look no further than Sidekick Supplies. Their product fits firmly inside your comic box, so you don't need to worry. And not only is their product made in the USA, but also ships free directly to your doorstep. Check out our sponsor, Sidekick Supplies, at sidekicksupplies.com and use the code COMICCON15 for 15% off your purchase. Believe me, you'll be ordering more than one.
Welcome back, everybody. If you are here for some extra content from the Comic-Con podcast, you are in the right place. We are here with Deadpool Wolverine, and we are going to be talking about review as well as spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled, do not listen. Pause this, come back to it later, because we are going to moderately deep dive into the movie and kind of talk about everything we thought, we saw, and experienced with Deadpool Wolverine. So as always, myself, the Manimal, and Justin, aka Nemesis Prime. And yeah, dude, let's get into it.
Hell yeah, man. Let's tap into the Deadpool and Wolverine, the first and only Marvel movie this year, basically.
Yeah. So that alone in and of itself is wild, right? Like, I mean, even did we have any Disney Plus shows besides X-Men 97? We had that, right? So that's kind of a Disney Plus show. But like MCU, there hasn't been anything this year. Was there anything in the I can't even
The
remember.
last thing, what was it?
This year's fallen. Ms. Marvel was the last TV show.
Captain Marvel was last year.
The Marvels, yeah. And then what was the last
Wars.
show? Secret Wars. That was the beginning of this year.
Not Secret Wars.
Invasion. Yeah. That was like in January. So we had that this year.
And I'm really not counting Venom in October because it's not MCU.
Oh God, no.
Shbabunk.
The Schmunk universe. But yeah, so we had Secret Invasion and we got Deadpool Wolverine, and then nothing the rest of the year. That's kind of crazy, dude. No shows, no nothing. But yeah, I mean, let's get into this. Let's I don't know, dude. Tons of hype for this movie, tons of hype. And I'm gonna be honest, like right at the gate, that lived up to everything, dude. It lived up to everything. That was as perfect of a movie I think you can get. If anyone's expecting like complaints here, I got nothing. Maybe if we talk a little bit, I might be like, it wasn't crazy about that. But
yeah.
And you know what? As I'm talking, there are a few things that bugged me, but those are personal things.
What, he was too funny and annoying?
No. Honestly, like, I know I talk shit on Deadpool and I don't like him because I don't like him in the comics. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
But I love Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool. Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool is amazing. It's a perfect Deadpool. It's a perfect combination of Deadpool. He's not insane. You know, like in the comics, he's insane. Like in the comics, it's just obnoxiously insane. Ryan Reynolds nails Deadpool. I mean, it's just like it's like it was written about him. It's weird. It's weird how perfect of a casting it was. Yeah, I don't know, dude. I mean, I guess it's just I don't even know where to start really. So I mean,
so how would we do this? We'll do what was your favorite part? Because I was talking to Jeff Comic Dunes the other day, and he's like, "Did you see it?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "What was your favorite part about the movie?" Or he's like, "Did you like it?" I go, "Yeah." And he's like, "What's your favorite part?" And for me, I think my favorite part was like the 2 times that both Deadpool and Wolverine fight.
Those are awesome. Those battles
are like hands down like the coolest things. Like, you know, there was a lot of anticipation of like Wolverine and Sabretooth, and we've kind of seen in the trailer with like Wolverine and Cassandra Nova, but I think that was just like the best. Like that is the pinnacle of like a Jedi versus Sith fight. Thanos versus the big 3 and Endgame, right? Like Thor versus Loki. Like that's what you really wanted to see. Like, we've been wanting to see this, and a lot of like homaging to things. But yeah, when they're fighting in the first time they fight in the void,
yeah,
and then when they fight later on in the car, like those are my favorite
Odyssey
parts. Yeah, like just the coolest stuff.
Yeah,
like just the action, like the brutality, and knowing that both of these characters are characters that can heal. So like
it's like a pointless battle. It's a completely pointless battle.
That's the best thing about it. Like there's no
winner. There's not going to be a winner. Yeah. My favorite part, I don't know if it's necessarily like an actual like specific part. I think the things that got to me the most were like the scenes with Wolverine where they're talking about the X-Men, right? Like so when he's telling like X-23 at the campfire site, you know, and he's kind of explaining like he turned his back and I'm just such an X-Men guy, you know, I'm such a sucker for the X-Men. So to hear him say, like, you know, I turned my back on, and then to name Cyclops, Beast, Storm, and Jean, you know, that shit like really touched. And then to him like feel like he's like, I was always a loner and I kind of walked away and I always wanted to do my own thing. That talks about like the suit and the importance of the suit. Like that's the stuff that really got to me. And then also obviously kind of like one of the final scenes with Cassandra Nova where he's saying, you know, where she's like in his head and you're seeing the kind of that the talk and the talk about Xavier and him also, you know, deciding not to kill her and being like, you know, Xavier would have found you. Like if he knew you existed, he would have torn apart the multiverse to find you. And like all that shit like hits with me like hard. So I think those things were the aspects of the movie that I liked the most. And I mean, hands down, if I have to pick one thing, Wolverine with the mask on. I mean, that's it, dude. Like with the suit and the mask on. And oh my God, actually, that's not true. And this is my favorite thing, but when I saw it, I was so hyped. Can you guess what it was?
Oh, I know what it was.
What?
I wanted to spoil it for you. The Age of Apocalypse.
Oh my God, dude. The Age of Apocalypse. When he came on screen, I was like, I turned my wife, I was like, oh my God, Age of Apocalypse Wolverine. Like, I was like, oh, this is so cool. She's like, what? You know, but all the Wolverines,
they did a great job. Like, that was really cool. Like with all the different Wolverines.
Yeah, dude. Like, and even the burn comment about the brown suit. Like, so
the comic accurate when he jumps off the stool.
The run. Yeah, that was good.
He's like
that was really good, dude. And even like, you know, so you got Patch and you kind of got like an old man Logan. So good.
So here we go. Let's get, you know, let's put it out there. Do we think Henry Cavill could play Wolverine or should play Wolverine?
Shoot. I mean, Henry Cavill can do anything he wants, but I will say that he was yoked, dude. He might be too big for Wolverine, to be honest. Like, you might need to shed that Superman body to be Wolverine. Not to say that Hugh Jackman's not massive as well. But that like diameter of his back, it's just too big, dude. You can't be doing that. You look like Beast. He actually should play he should play Beast. So he should be playing more Colossus.
Oh yeah, Colossus. That'd be cool. Yeah, because he's not American. Like he's got the accent. You know, he could obviously just switch that up to like a Russian accent. So
the Henry Cavill, that was. I mean, the story's the story, but I think everyone's here for like the twists and the show, the cameos and stuff like that, right? You know, let's talk about some of that kind of, and we can go back to the story.
And I feel like you and I really, we you know, I said this to you. I was like, and even like in our group chats, it's just like, other than the trailers and like here, like clips, I guess I was very much like virginized for this. Like I went in and I didn't know anybody who was going to be in there, right? Like you heard rumors. And then and you even said this, like they did a lot of rumors that like so-and-so was showing up, so-and-so was showing up, this person. And, you know, and that was great. Like, so anytime somebody was on screen, other than like the mutants, like Cassandra Nova's people, like Azrael or I'm sorry, Azrael, Azazel, Toad, Lady Deathstrike, and like Sabretooth and Pyro, like I didn't know like anybody was showing up. You know, I'm so happy Dazzler was there. Was Dazzler there?
Where did you see Dazzler?
Oh no, that's right. She wasn't there because everybody.
You're being facetious. I was like, dude, did I miss Dazzler somewhere?
No. I'm just throwing shade for all the people that went out there and bought themselves that first appearance for Taylor Swift showing up.
Yeah, the cameos, same thing. I mean, I watched obviously like the first couple trailers, and then once I really saw that people were like deep diving and screenshotting stuff, like, I mean, some of the stuff I couldn't avoid, but in the pictures. But I just kind of really was like, I tuned it out. I was like, okay, cool. Like, you know, even early on, we didn't know. You'd seen the pictures of like the, you know, the still of, like you said, Cassandra Nova's crew right out in front, the Mad Max type scene. And you see a Lady Deathstrike, you see a Toad, you see, you know, who else? Juggernaut. But you didn't know, like, hey, are those the original actors? Even Azazel, like, we weren't sure, is that the original actor? And I really loved that it was Aaron Stanford playing Pyro again, because I love him as an actor, and I thought that was really, really cool, him returning. And the rest of them obviously weren't returning actors besides Tyler Mane, but so I kind of tried to stay away from it. You know, I was really bummed. I think I've talked about it a couple times on the podcast episodes leading up to this, that I was pissed that they revealed the X-23 thing. Like, I wish that would have been more
Yeah.
meaningful if they just wouldn't have put that. Um, Elektra, we all knew, you know,
So
and
I I knew that was like a rumor, but I wasn't 100% that she was gonna show up. So,
okay,
like,
so I
when I
thought
saw
that was
her,
like
I
a
was like,
pretty
"Oh, okay."
confirmed, yeah,
Yeah, okay. See, like, again, like, I kinda was happy that I stayed away from a
yeah,
lot of the, the definites, I guess. Like,
mhm,
I knew that they'd throw in some people, like, I thought, alright, so let's kinda run
yeah,
it down through the entire movie. So, not including, like, the Wolverine, so you see Thor, right? Chris Hemsworth Thor is in there and in, like, a separate scene,
yeah,
different than from, like, the Marvels. You see the Hulk, very quickly.
mhm.
There's, again, like you said, X-23, Elektra, you got Blade,
Dude,
um,
that scene,
hold on, hold on,
yeah,
let me get
oh,
through
you
it.
wanna more?
Chris
Okay,
Evans as Johnny Storm.
mhm,
Anyone else
Gambit,
that I'm missing? Oh, Gambit, yes. Oh, Jesus Christ.
yeah,
Yeah, Channing Tatum's Gambit, and I think that's it as far as, like, cameos, right?
like the big
That's
ones, yeah,
yeah, like, the like, ones that you
didn't know,
whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we already talked about the Cavill, yeah, so
Yeah, so but even, like, Cavill's really not, like, I wouldn't consider that a cameo. I'm talking about, like, people that
right,
were
right,
actual, like,
existing, yeah,
already, yeah, existing. So,
yeah,
with that being said, going in, like, there was rumors that, like, Ben Affleck's Daredevil was gonna show up. There was
mhm,
rumors, like, and even surprisingly that none of the original X-Men were there. Like, I was
yeah,
shocked to not see any of the Fox or
yeah,
anybody from any
besides
of those, like,
Pyro.
yeah, realistic, yeah,
Pyro's the only one,
and
yeah.
Azazel,
Well, I don't
and
think it was the
Juggernaut.
right I don't think it was the same actor.
I feel like
It
for what, Azazel?
Yeah, it wasn't the original actor.
I'm not sure, but yeah, and even Juggernaut too. But like for the most part, like any of the good guys, I'd say. Like so,
Mhm.
none of the X team, nothing like Emma Frost you'd see or Sebastian Shaw from like those movies.
Yeah.
And then nothing, none of the Professor X's. But I feel like they kind of,
With Chris Evans, yeah, they
yeah,
kinda
yeah.
said it.
I feel like Ryan, Deadpool says it. He's like, you're blowing the budget when
Yeah,
because he's on screen for too much longer. So yeah,
yeah.
it's crazy because like yeah, it sucks that we knew like that Daphne Keene was gonna be in there from that final trailer. That would have been cool.
Mhm.
I did not expect to see Blade.
No. And I loved the way they themed, like, you know, X-23, Blade, Gambit, and Elektra. Like, I loved how they themed it where it was kind of like even the whole idea of the Void, right? The Void basically being the dumping ground for Fox characters, right? So, like,
Yeah.
everyone who was in the Void was like a Fox character. Um, and I loved how they kind of framed it as their arc was really, you know, hey, like we thought we were going to get more, which is kind of like touching in a way too, right?
Yes.
Like you think about if you go back and you think about Jennifer Garner, right? Like obviously she had a career before the Alias stuff, and then she shows up in Daredevil's Elektra, and then she gets a spin off like a solo, which was kind of wild at the time too, like
Mhm.
an Elektra like solo film with no Daredevil tie-in. And granted, you know, it wasn't amazing, but even for that to be greenlit was kind of wild. So you think about what those actors and actresses think, right? And it's the same thing I think about with Deadpool 2, the scene where he shoots himself in the head. He's like, "You're ready to hit the big time reading the Green Lantern," you know? So even Ryan Reynolds, you think like these actors are probably like, "Wow, dude, like this is probably a start of something big for my career."
Mhm.
And it fizzled, right? And it kind of like so it's almost like a double meaning with like the actress and the character saying like, you know, we didn't get an ending to our story. So that's kind of what we're looking for. Um
Yeah. It
So I
was
thought that
pretty
was
smart.
really
Like you said, we'll
powerful.
just kinda expand on, like, what you were saying.
Yeah.
It's true. Like, they were all invited in by the TVA to be something more or to
Mhm,
help, but realistically, it was they thought that they were the biggest threat of their universe, so they got rid of them by putting them in the void.
mhm.
Like, that was actually smart thinking. Like, that actually goes into a more in-depth story instead of them just, like, showing up because 20th Century Fox got bought out,
Yeah.
right? And they're just, like, there. Like, there was no reason.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, and the Channing Tatum stuff was great, dude. Like, honestly, I thought that was amazing. Like, I know Deadpool kinda ragged on him for the dialect and stuff, but I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was awesome. I thought the comics accurate, like, outfit was
yeah.
great.
The
Um,
action, the CGI for him, the playing
yeah.
cards, and just everything, like,
Oh,
lighting up,
dude.
like, they
When he
did a
had
great
all the
job.
cards and they came
Yeah,
out like that, oh, dude, that was really killer. And
yeah,
even the comments he makes, right? Like, they're like, "How did you get here?" Because I think I was born here. You know, like implying like he never got a
yeah,
movie, right? And so like the idea that in all the comments, he's like, "I always wanted to be a part of a team." Like, he just kind of kept going on that train, and it was sad and funny at the same time. And
mhm.
but man, I gotta say, there's two comments that, like, since we're talking about this group of characters, there's two comments that I thought were like brutal, dude.
Oh, I
Like
know.
just
Yeah, I'm
brutal.
sure. I
So
know
the
which one it
Elektra
is.
one, right, was like, well, that was a rough one. Where he's like,
Yeah,
"Where's
yeah,
Daredevil?" He didn't make it. We're not just like, we're okay.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
the whole idea of her and Ben Affleck, like that's wild.
yeah.
But the Blade comment,
Yep.
dude, that was like a dagger. Honestly, it kind of like was like, I can't believe Marvel let that happen. Like that was rough, bro.
Yeah.
Wonder
He
what
goes,
that
so there's only
means,
one
dude.
blade, and they're all there. He's like, there's only one blade, and there only ever will be one blade.
And then
Just like,
Daredevil or
oh,
Deadpool looks at the camera like, what is that telling us? And like, I'm actually wondering because everyone's been talking about it, right? Like, Blade's never gonna happen. Blade's never gonna happen.
yep.
Blade's never gonna happen. It's had so many problems, and then that comment is made. Like, is that? Are we being told that that is actually like that? They're like, we're giving up on Blade.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. That's crazy. Um, real quick on the idea of like breaking the fourth wall with like characters in their real life situations and stuff. I was telling my wife this. What's really surprising? I always kind of was waiting for a joke to come in this movie about it, and it looks like it was like dodged. But it's kind of crazy that Ryan Reynolds never made any comments about like Scarlett Johansson and Black Widow, right? Since they were
Hmm.
married in real life for a while, and like to not reference that after broke the fourth wall with his own wife multiple times in the
Yeah.
movie, and then like it's Avengers and she's there, like seems like maybe that was one step he didn't want to take. He didn't want to
Yeah,
go
yeah.
that route.
Didn't
That's
want to
kind of
show any
interesting.
videos of her pretty
That's
much with like
interesting.
Cap or Iron Man or Thor. And
So I'd have to rewatch because when I was thinking about it, I was like, you know what? Even when they do the old like circle Avengers thing,
yep.
I'm not entirely sure you see Black Widow.
No, I
I'd
don't
have
think
to
you, I
I'd
really
have
don't
to
think you do.
rewatch. Yeah, I'd have to rewatch to see if she show. You see Hawkeye for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's kind of yeah. I guess yeah. I guess it's a touchy subject for old double R Ryan Reynolds,
Oh.
but
What did
um,
you, as far as, and even though those characters, like they were
yeah,
cool, they had a lot of good action. I would,
right.
they actually had a lot more scenes than I thought they were going to get, you
Agreed. I
know?
thought it was just gonna be a quick cameos.
I mean, the Johnny Storm thing was funny because he thinks it's Cap
That
and
was
like
great.
he
Yeah, that was
just
perfect.
comes down. Um, uh, what did you think of Cassandra Nova as like the villain? Like, how did you feel
So
as her as like a villain? Like,
it was strange, honestly, leading up to this. Like when it got announced that she was going to be the villain, I didn't really get it. Right? I was like, "What?
yep.
Like, why is Cassandra Nova one of the most powerful mutants in existence a Deadpool villain?" But it makes sense, and it definitely made it as you see the movie play out with the tie with Xavier, with Logan, with like that. It had to be something that would kind of rock Logan a little bit and tie him back into the X-Men. I thought it was a good villain. It's definitely a good villain as well, where I say this a lot in terms of like the movies, stuff like I don't want good villains wasted in like one-shot movies, right? Like
Mhm.
Cassandra Nova in the comics is a great villain. And like it's cool to see her show up in the comics. But honestly, like how are you really going to adapt and bring her into like a film franchise? You know what I mean? And be so powerful. So to like, I'm cool with like throwaway villains like that in a way where it's like, cool, hey, we got to see Cassandra Nova, never really thought we needed to, never thought we could. Boom, we got it. We don't need to see her again, you know?
Yeah, it's like, how would you bring her? It's like almost like, how would you bring her into the X-Men fold, knowing that, like, yeah, mutants are coming, but there's bigger and better villains to be
Right.
shown, and
Yeah.
then like just to have her still be there because
Mhm.
the Marvel, the Marvel ploy is like the villains either become good or they just keep them around continuously
Or they're
longer,
one and
and
dones. They're
yes,
just like, yeah, I mean, the whole Avengers saga, we never see a villain again besides Thanos, really. So
mhm,
I I'm glad they didn't waste someone like what would have pissed me off is if it was like a sinister, like a
yeah,
big
exactly.
X-Men villain, like
Mhm.
someone that has legs that could go like how they did Dirty with Apocalypse, like a villain who has legs to just throw into it. So long story short, I liked it. I thought it was cool. It was disturbing the fingers in the head thing. Like
Oh, that was
that was
wild, but that's like
off-putting, bro.
But that's creepy, but also very like that's stuff that like you kind of see in like the comics, but you don't
Yeah.
get to see that in like
Right.
real
It's
life. You
hard to
see
it's
that
hard
in
to
a
show.
panel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So like yeah, when she's like gripping their minds and showing things like whether it's
Mhm.
Wade or whether it's Wolverine, like just sticking her finger like through his forehead
It was
is
so
just
off-putting, dude.
yeah, it's so like The Conjuring and like
Yeah.
those crazy type of movies, horror movies, and it's just like wow, like this is pretty wild that she's like mind melding. Like 'cause
Mhm.
you really even don't even see that for But she even explained that like she has to touch them to like
Yeah, and I think
go
that's
in.
different in the comics, I'm pretty sure, but it's a cool different take, you know,
Yeah,
it's whatever.
I'm
It's
like because
not
it's
it
like not as
doesn't
simple as
yeah.
uh like Professor X. So
Yeah, it's a good twist on like, hey, here's something a little visually different, right? You know, because like you said, like I mean, telepathy visually, not easy to do. Uh, but dude, like when she was with Paradox and her fingers were coming out of his nostrils and stuff, and then out of his eyes, they were just like she was moving them, like it was almost oh,
yeah,
dude,
through like the side of his
ugh,
head.
that was
It's like
crazy.
holy Jesus.
That
But
was really cool. I mean,
uh, go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead. I was gonna say the plot in general I thought was just done so well in terms of like, okay, so I think you got to think about this movie a little like in terms of like giving it credit, which I don't think many people are talking shit on it by any means, but you really need to understand like how difficult this movie probably was to make, right? You're blending a Fox, all these Fox, like Fox saga with the MCU. And so they took all these seamless, like with all the Fox stuff, TVA, the Loki stuff, breeding this all into one story, which actually kind of makes sense with a multiverse without being, in a way, super like it didn't seem bogged down by the multiverse aspect, right? Am I
Mhm.
wrong there?
Oh no,
Like
they definitely and they he even says it like
not like Strange was. Strange felt bogged down by multiverse.
yeah.
Um,
And, you know, even bringing in like Eliath, he even like references
yeah.
that. He's like, "Oh, that's from Loki season 1, episode 5."
Yeah, I mean, it's just so perfect, right? So, I thought the way they did it and honestly, the movie never drug. Like, you either had and it moved. I mean, you were
Yeah.
invested in the movie. It was either story, which was gripping, to fight scenes, to action, to story. Like, I
Mhm.
mean, I don't know, dude. Masterclass of writing a movie, and most of the MCU writers need to take some fucking lessons. So,
Yeah. There was definitely never a part where I felt like, "Oh god, they gotta get off of this scene and get, like, to the next scene or,
yeah,
like, get off of this character because 'cause they're dragging with the character." Like, every time, like, Deadpool and Wolverine are on screen, anytime it's the cameo characters or anytime they push back to, like, Morbius and,
Morbius.
you know well, Paradox, I'm sorry.
Oh, Paradox. Oh,
Um,
Mobius, yeah. It's like,
yeah,
wait,
he's like
did I miss no, I'm like, I missed Dazzler and
yeah,
Morbius?
yeah. No, they did a good job, and
Yeah.
then just bringing in all the characters from, like, the Deadpool movie, like, seeing him in the beginning and, like,
Mhm. Yeah.
just, um, what else was what I things I liked? Like, I think I said this too, like, the opening, like, in sync monologue fight scene.
Oh, dude,
Like, it's just so
so
stupid,
awesome.
but it's I was just like, "Yeah, they're really going with this," and, you know, him using the old man Logan, body to, like,
Yeah, the
kill them
skeleton.
all
Yeah.
was it's just so seamless, like, there's no, like, "Oh, this is, like, corny and stupid," like, this is cool, and
Mm.
there's a reason, like and that's something that you were when you watch the trailer, you're like, "Oh, well, where is he?" You know, and so
You know, this is a minor thing, but there's something that I thought about because I just rewatched the first 2 Deadpools, like, this week as well,
mhm.
and I'm sure you remember in the first 2, the opening scenes, they would say, like, instead of, like, saying the names like Ryan Reynolds, it would say, like, "A good-looking idiot," and, like or it
Yeah.
had, like, funny stuff, right? And so they did that in 1 and 2, and I was expecting it in this one as well, and I liked it that they didn't do that. I
Mhm.
liked it, like, because I feel like some movies and series and stuff fall into this, "Hey, well, we gotta keep going on this trope that we've done." Like, no, you don't. Like, it worked there and it's cool, and I'm not saying I wouldn't have liked it if they would have done it again. But I liked the fact that they're like, "We're not gonna do that this time. We're gonna put actors' names for whatever reason they decided to." And that's such a small thing, but I feel like in a way, it's a big thing because I feel like people get stuck in this rut, like, of, like, having to recreate a movie, like a sequel. So, like, I think of, like, some of the shittiest sequels of all time to, like, amazing movies. Like, Dumb and Dumber, the original is a phenomenal movie.
Mhm.
Sequel, god awful. Anchorman, amazing movie. Sequel, god awful. And it's just because they kinda, like, try to follow the same, like, you know, process. Like, "Oh, let's make our same jokes here and the same themes here," and I don't know. I like it when people are brave enough to, like, break away from what worked before and try something different. So,
Mhm. As far
um
as how about anything, like, as far as, I guess, things that you didn't like, right? Like, was there anything in this movie that kinda was like, coulda done without?
yeah,
You know, did you have any like, 'cause, when we do our movie
yeah.
reviews, we're always like the good, the bad, and the ugly. I feel like this movie really didn't have an ugly part or a bad part. Like, it was like,
Mhm.
whatever, I went to go see it like 3:30 on Thursday. It's probably started at 4. It was done by like 6. So it was like 2 hours of fleshed out, just gone. It was going. Like there was
Yeah.
like nonstop, and you wanted it to even go more, but understandably, it's fine. Like,
Right.
we get it, and, even like towards the end, again, we get the whole Deadpool core, and like that was cool. Like seeing different versions of Deadpool, and some people don't recognize some of them, and like some of them you do know, but it's like
Mhm.
at the end of the day, like I thought this movie had no bad part, and I'm excited to go see it again.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I don't think there's actually like a bad part. There's things that I personally am not crazy about, but that's like for example, this is like just a me. Like I can't stand, and this kind of leans in. So this is the one aspect I was talking to my wife on the drive home today about this that worries me is so, and it's all kind of tied. Like I don't like the idea of like, oh, Wolverine, you're the X-Men, right? That bugs me. It's always bugged me. I don't find Wolverine to be the X-Men. I understand
Mhm.
he's very fan favorite, and he probably is the fan favorite X-Men for sure. Of course, to me, it's always going to be Cyclops is the X-Men. But my fear about this movie, the only thing I can say I dislike, and it's not the movie. This movie's going to make a ton of money. It's going to make a ton of money, right? And so we're bridging that era of Fox to MCU and bringing mutants over. So my fear is you just gave Hugh Jackman another, just like, and he's great, dude. He's the Wolverine, right? But like, we have to move on from him. He can't, even the jokes in the movie, like, you're going to be doing this till you're 90, right? It's not going to happen. Like, you have to recast these X-Men characters. And by giving him another boost, like even better than his last one, because this movie was better Wolverine depiction than Logan, in my opinion.
Oh, 100%.
In terms of classic, like Wolverine, right? So you've just boosted him. Now everyone's going to like want him back again, but we can't have him back. And I think people need to realize that. So that worries me moving into MCU X-Men, like how you're going to get past that. I also am also worried about this idea of like I know it's a joke throughout, but it's also money talks, right? Like the Marvel Jesus aspect of like Deadpool, like using Deadpool as a mechanism to like bring the X-Men in or be like a crossover, like a bridge for X-Men to be successful in the Marvel universe worries me because Deadpool's not an X-Men. He's
Yeah.
X adjacent, right? Like he's obviously people think, he's been on the X-Men before, but he's not really an X-Men. So in Ryan Reynolds' character and his depiction of Deadpool, I don't think would be good in any kind of an ensemble Avengers team. Like he has to be the focal point, right? Like he
Yep.
has to be the main character. So I'm worried a little bit, like, where do we go from here? Because this was so perfect and so awesome that expectations are going to be really, really high. And I'm afraid that they'll just be like, well, let's bring him back. Let's bring back Hugh and let's bring back Deadpool. That worked.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think Hugh maybe will come back for Secret Wars. I think Deadpool will come back for Secret Wars, and that'll probably maybe be the last time you see them. Um, but and I guess it's whoever they cast, right? Whoever
right.
they cast as the next Wolverine, they're going to get hate, right? Because
Oh,
every
yeah.
time they recast the Superman or cast the Batman, like everybody gets hate or Joker, for the most part. Like everybody always like, ugh, it's not the previous person. Like whether
Mhm.
they good or bad, it's always like that. And even like X-Men, like just to bring this back to what you said about the X-Men, and I know you're a huge X-Men guy, and I know there's a lot of huge X-Men listeners out there. Where where do you see? And I mean, for me, I'll give you when my
Yeah.
point of origin or point. What do they call it in this? The anchor point, right?
Mhm.
That's like what it is. I feel like my anchor point of when Wolverine took over as the X-Men was X-Men animated series. Because everything before that, yeah, he was on the team for whatever since like Giant Size, but I don't ever felt like he was the X-Men.
Right.
Like there was always the team and he was just part of it.
Mhm.
The Burn stuff, even like the early Jim Lee stuff. Like, yeah, he's on like a lot of covers and shit. He had like his own video game spinoff and like the Nintendo era. But I feel like it wasn't until X-Men 97 where people were like, wow, he's really like the person that everybody wants to see on screen.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to say I don't know in terms of like myself, but I think you're right. Obviously, when like the X-Men animated, like the original came out, he's visually probably the most appealing character. And he's like the most badass, right? And I think it also goes in, I mean, you can also take Gambit as well. If you were actually to look at like X-Men animated, the original, at the same time when like the comics, like those years,
Yep.
it's not like Gambit was getting a ton of big storylines. He was relatively a pretty new character at that time, like in terms of if you want to like compare him to other X-Men, but he's also considered like a massive fan favorite, and it's because of like the animated series. So I think you definitely have, there's definitely like some truth for sure and validity to what you're saying. Like that's where he kind of jumped. I think it also has to do with, out of all the X-Men, really, I mean, and I'm an X-Men guy, so like I'm just thinking right off the cuff. There hasn't been a lot of like, most X-Men don't have like a specific villain like Wolverine has had. You know what I mean? Like their arch enemy. I mean, they all kind of have one, but I mean, there's nothing that compares like Wolverine and Sabretooth. So like that was always very epic in the comics as well. So it lends to his like, you know, why people like him so much. But it's the bad boy aspect too, right? He's the badass. He's the unkillable guy. Like for a dude reading, you're like, oh, I want to be the guy who heals. And I mean, honestly, if we're talking about wanting his superpower, like what, of course, that's the one you want. I don't know how you pick anything other than that. Especially with dudes like us who have back pains. Like, hell yeah, dude, I want that shit. You know? But I don't know. I don't know when it happened. Obviously, the X-Men movies didn't help, in my opinion, when you make every single X-Men movie either about Wolverine, Xavier, Magneto, and then for whatever reason, they decided to make Mystique a very important character as well. And so you're seeing like great characters like Cyclops and Beast and Storm and even Jean Grey. I know people like, she got a lot of story time, but she didn't really get a fleshed out character. That's why the Dark Phoenix stuff never hit, because it never really fleshed her out well enough. It does it a disservice. And so Wolverine's tough, man. It's like Batman movies. You're always expecting the Joker, right? You make a Batman movie, it's like, okay, it doesn't matter if we start Batman Begins or we start Batman Robert Pattinson. When's the Joker coming? That's the question. So it's always tough. Do you start X-Men without Wolverine? And the question always is, when's he coming? And we got to look for him. So I don't know how you avoid that problem. I think it is kind of unavoidable, unfortunately. So.
All right. I guess last but not least, mid and post-credit scene.
So I love the mid. I loved the mid, like the flashbacks to all the Fox stuff, but it was weird they didn't show any Blade.
Yeah,
So, like,
I think because that was under Legendary Pictures, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe you're right. Yeah, probably a rights issue thing, right? Okay. That makes sense. Because it did not make sense. Because they even showed like Daredevil and Elektra clips. You know what? Now thinking about it, weird that he didn't make another reference to Happy being in Daredevil either.
Oh yeah. That's that's right. He shows up. I forgot.
Isn't he Happy Hogan? Or not Happy? He's
he's
his buddy, his best friend.
Yeah, Foggy.
Foggy. Yeah, he's Foggy in that. So anyway, yeah, I liked the kind of like swan song for the movies. I thought that was really cool and fun.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's actually like when you hear like Hugh Jackman talking and how young he was, and like he's just like I'm on thing, and I'm like so scared because I don't know what to do. And then like
unknown. Yeah,
he was completely unknown. And then even like Ryan Reynolds when he was talking about when he was on whatever the first Wolverine movie, the first Wolverine movie, and he's just like, I grew up reading the books, and he's like, I always felt like I wanted to play this character. I needed to play this character. And even though that wasn't the version that we got, but we got an early rendition of him, like before he becomes that stupid, whatever Weapon X project that towards the end of the movie. So but that was really cool.
Oh, sorry. Finish.
No, it was just really cool to see all that cool stuff at the midpoint. Like just the open ups with the X-Men, like Cerebro door and
yeah. Well, I like the Fantastic Four too. Also showing all the iterations of the Fantastic Four. So even the next one they made too. So
I'm shocked about that.
I know it was kind of weird, but it's cool that they didn't leave it out. Like I feel like that's not fair. It is what it is.
I'm almost shocked that all right, and I guess before we wrap up, is there anybody that you heard that was going to show up, or anybody that you wish that would have showed up out of all the 20?
I mean, obviously, I think you hit it the nail right on the head when you said like the X-Men not being there, but it makes complete sense why they weren't there, like budget wise. There wasn't anyone I heard in the movie that didn't show up in the movie. I do remember hearing the rumors and like there was talk for a little while. I felt like it quieted pretty quick, at least for me, it did, about Chris Evans playing Johnny Storm. And I had kind of forgot about it. And so when he showed up as Johnny Storm, I was genuinely surprised about that. The Channing Tatum, I didn't see that shit coming. Like that was out of nowhere. And Blade. So Channing Tatum and Blade, those were two for me that were just like, if that got rumored and got out there, it never got to me.
I think if X-23 didn't show up at the end, at the last trailer, I would have been like super happy. Like, been like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like, and she fights and she's literally got like the sunglasses and the backpack. Like she doesn't have a costume, right? Like,
and she had like a pivotal moment with Wolverine. Like that's why I felt like they wish they wouldn't have ruined that. Like you could have ruined Blade. You could have, and it wouldn't have been a big deal.
I don't think you could have. I don't think they could have done that and made it as cool as it was. Because like, when you see like them walking into the room, like each one, I'm like, holy shit, who's it gonna be? Like you were anticipating, and then eventually when the Wolverine or Deadpool says, "Oh, like, well, who brought us here?" and you're like, well, it's got to be X-23 because we know that she's part of. You know, we know she's gonna be in the movie because of the fact that she was shown in literally the week before trailer. Like that was like, but everybody else, I'm just like, oh, you know, and my theater went crazy, like for every character.
Yeah. I think the one character that didn't show up that I think we knew wasn't going to show up, especially when we saw the trailer. I was bummed Liev Schreiber wasn't playing Sabretooth, to be honest. That depiction of Sabretooth, in my opinion, was way better than the Tyler Mane stuff. And that was a bummer. So, but
I was actually shocked to see none of the I guess second rendition of Fantastic Four, because even though they like showed that behind the scenes stuff, I would have loved to seen maybe another one of the FF characters, like after Johnny. You know, like there was a rumor that Jessica Alba was going to come back and possibly shit. I mean, even like show like Doom, like that would have been like.
Oh. It would have been cool to see either, like one of the characters, one of the FF from the other universe. Oh, it would have been really funny if they got Michael B. Jordan and then you had Chris Evans be like, wait, you're black? Like if they were like talked about, wait, in that universe I'm black? What's happening?
Yeah. Because they really do they do go into like the whole wokeism and they talk about it, like he literally goes deep into it. Yeah. So
that would have been fun.
I'm shocked that they didn't do that either. And we're not even, we could spend another hour like talking about all the little cameo things that they had, like you see like the FF like Fantastic flying car. Yeah, like there's so many like little things like
he mentions Reed, which I think is smart, honestly, in terms of like Marvel. I thought it was smart to them give a good connection to Fantastic Four, knowing we have Fantastic Four coming, and it's kind of like reminding people, or maybe even people who don't. I mean, there's younger viewers out there, right, who are going to see this movie, which, by the way, there was like a young kid sitting next to my wife and I. And my wife even goes, I kind of judge these parents for bringing their kid. And I was like, yeah. Because I kind of said to her, I go, I'll be honest, like I'd want to bring my son if he was old enough. Then the movie goes on. And I remember the first moment where I regretted, where I was like, oh, shouldn't bring the kid. When Ryan Reynolds is, where Deadpool's talking to Happy, he's like, oh, when I Hulkster baited or whatever. Or smashed bait. And I was like, oh my God, dude, they're talking about masturbation. There's like a kid like right next to me.
That's actually, I thought was going to happen. I really thought Robert Downey Jr. was going to walk in, like at the end of their meeting, or like Deadpool would have left, and then all of a sudden,
is
like
he gone?
Tony Stark, like Tony Stark walks in, and he's like, "Who the hell was that?" type of thing. Like that's funny. I was really anticipating that showing up.
That would be funny,
but whatever. It's again the budget, or it is what it is. Some
I feel like if I'm an actor, I would do some of that shit for free. Like I'd be like,
I'm sure.
Dude, I would do it, right? I'm like, you got to pay me. I'm sure there's like the league minimum like type aspect, and but I don't know, pro bono, like donate to my charity rather than pay me.
Or like not even pay me, just like give me like 2% of, or like not even that, or just like, hey, give me whatever the normal pay is for the couple days, like
because they got like a union though that says like the SAG and all that like protects all that. So it's bullshit, but whatever. You should be able to opt out,
Of course, of course. But overall, I thought it was a great movie. I think it's definitely the best movie post Endgame, hands down.
Oh,
like,
it's nothing. CGC 9.8, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. I want to go see it again. Like I immediately got out of the theater and I like I think I texted you guys and I was just like, yep, good, thumbs up.
Yeah.
Texting my brother, I go, saw Deadpool. Do you want to know? He's like, no, I'm actually considering going to see it. I go, all right. I was like, let me know, because like I will absolutely go see it again. Just because there's so many like little quips and jokes that
Yeah.
he does say that
Yeah.
you don't maybe not get it the first time because you just want to laugh
Mm-hmm.
until you actually have to think about like what he meant by that part.
Yeah.
So
That was good, man. It was really, really
yeah.
good.
Well, cool. Awesome.
So that's
Everybody.
what we got. Thanks for everyone for joining for the Deadpool Wolverine review, whether you saw it this weekend, 2 weeks from now, or whenever. Hopefully you came back and checked out the review and you agreed with us. Because if you didn't agree with us, then you know what? We don't want to hear from you. Just kidding.
How
If
can
you
you
don't
not
agree,
like this
I
movie?
actually would very much, if there is someone out there that has complaints, like I would love to know what they are. Not because I want to like argue with you by any means. I'm just curious if there is anyone who's like, I didn't like this aspect.
Yeah.
Because it
And you know
doesn't
me,
feel like
man.
it's out
I'm
there.
like the guy. I'm the guy for the Marvel movie that doesn't like comedy, but this is clearly all comedy, right?
But it's done so well, right?
I know it's different.
And I don't know how to explain that. I don't know how to. It's because it's not goofy.
Yep.
Maybe it's the rated R aspect, honestly.
And it's
Because
Ryan Reynolds,
yeah,
and we're
it's Ryan
expecting that from him.
Yeah. So thanks everyone. Deadpool Wolverine review, Comic-Con podcast. Make sure you tune in every Friday. New episodes drop. Don't know when you're listening to this, so I can't really tell you what's coming and what's going on us coming up. But if you are listening to this before Terrificon, make sure you get out there. Make sure you say hi to us. Take a look at our Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles variant cover done by VKin Marion. If you aren't coming to Terrificon, you can go over to Jaff Comics, pick up a copy there. Or if you come out to Terrificon, you can get one from us and meet Mr. VKin himself. Get a SIG, get a remark, get whatever you want. But yeah.
Cool.
If not,
thanks everybody.
Check you later.
Hey, comic book collectors. Do you want to protect what you collect? Do you hate when your comic books slide around in your short box, or you need to turn them sideways just so they don't bend or fall over? Well, look no further than Sidekick Supplies. Their product fits firmly inside your comic box, so you don't need to worry. And not only is their product made in the USA, but also ships free directly to your doorstep. Check out our sponsor, Sidekick Supplies, at sidekicksupplies.com and use the code COMICCON15 for 15% off your purchase. Believe me, you'll be ordering more than one.